Hello friends, Sharon and Jared here with another session. We thought we'd have a video introduction this time to explain a little bit about what's been going on with Sharon. And so we'll let Sharon talk about that. You know, we finally broke down, as you know from our postings, that Sharon has been suffering from some back issues. And it finally got so bad that we broke down and asked our spirit friends to bring in the healers. And we did that yesterday. And so I'll let Sharon talk about what she saw and how that worked. But I think the reason why we waited so long is because it's kind of like imposing on a friend. You just hate doing it until you absolutely positively have to. And so we got desperate enough to where
I didn't think it would continue so long.
Right.
I haven't had that much pain in many years, and I did not do anything that I could figure out that would have caused it, so I kept thinking it would go away, and of course it just kept getting worse. So anyway, the healing technique that I offer people where you're using hypnosis, Jared did a variation on that to help yesterday to get through to the healers. And of course, when you do something like that, you always ask to go to the source of the problem. And I've taken training to do this from a couple of different people, but the first one was Dolores Cannon. And one of the things that she used to say is, everything is from a past life. Even things that you think happen in this life, that there's no possible way that could have originated in a past life. They always do. And the same thing was true for me. In fact, when I originally took her training, I had gone with another lady that I knew, and we split expenses on travel and room and everything. And she already had some training in hypnosis. And the first day, Dolores gave us the script. And she said, it works. Whether you believe in past life regression, whether you believe that we've had past lives, it is irrelevant. It works. You just go through the script, you follow the script, it works. So the first night, I was in so much pain at that training seminar, I didn't think I'd be able to get through the next few days. And so I begged my friend that had gone with me to please go through the script and at least give it a try. Well, it worked. The interesting thing is I went back to a past lifetime where I had been captured in Africa and put into slavery. And I guess that started more than one lifetime where I was a slave in the U.S. South. So in this one lifetime, where the pain was coming from, I had escaped from a very cruel master. And he set the hounds after me, and he was so angry that I had escaped. I was actually a black man in that lifetime. And he shot me in the back. And so...
Well, he shot you two places, right?
Yes, but I didn't realize that until yesterday. So anyway, that cured the pain in the mid-back. It didn't take it away completely. So there's still more that needs to be worked on at some point. But it took the bulk of it away where I was able to sit through the next few days in class without any problems. And I haven't had the big issues with the mid-back since then. So when we did the session yesterday and I asked to go back to the source, it actually went back to that same exact event. Only he didn't just shoot me in the middle of my back, he also shot me in the low back, which I didn't realize until we did the session yesterday. And then, as I was lying on the ground dying, he kicked me with his heavy boots until even after I was dead. And I could see that very, very clearly. And so...
Well, what happens with when you go back into past life regression to find the source of a phobia or injury or something? What happens when it's identified? What normally happens to that?
Well, it helps just to identify it and get that understanding. But then also the practitioner, whoever is working on you, also gives it the command, or the hypnotic suggestion is probably a better way to put it, to go back into the past where it belongs so that it doesn't bother you anymore in the current life. Because there are bleed overs from one life to another on many things that we don't really realize unless you do some type of exercise like this to find out. So that was kind of a surprise, but it made sense because it identified who this person was in the current life, and it was directly triggered by an event the day before where I had to see this person. I had not connected that person to this lifetime previously because I didn't know this person at the time of the first session that had to do with the mid-back. But this person had come into my life since then. And the interesting thing is he was a very large white man in that lifetime and very, very strong.
When you were a slave, you're saying?
When I was a slave, yes. And in this lifetime, he is a very short, maybe even under 5 foot tall black man. And what Spirit told me, because of how he has abused his power in previous lifetimes and his position, the height was taken away from him, and he came back as a black man instead of a white man. The other lifetimes where I was connected with this person personally, he was always a very large white man. So it's very interesting that in this lifetime he's such a tiny little black man. But this was done because he was supposed to learn humility and compassion for others. And they said he hasn't learned it. So he's not being very successful at what he's supposed to be learning in this lifetime. Which is sad because he will most likely have to go through something like that again. But
well, what's interesting too is it's not just the past life regression, going back and identifying the problem and issue, but we also called in healers. Can you talk a little bit about the healers and how they look to you in different times?
We called in healers. That's one part of it. The other part is identifying the source. was going to add something. But anyway, as far as calling in the healers, most of the time when they first come in, they come in more than one group. The first group comes in and they look like the pictures you see of cherubim, the little baby angels. However, they're not babies. They are a particular species that's just very tiny. And they're always very, very instrumental with the healing process. They're the first one to come in. They're the last one to leave. Now, it was interesting because this particular session, I saw them very differently than I've seen them before. In this session, they looked like little orbs of light, but I still think it was the cherubim because they were the first ones to come in and they were doing the kind of things that the cherubim do. So I think it was still the cherubim, but this time they were little orbs of bright green light, because green is the color most closely associated with healing. And then when they would go down to do something, like generally they do a type of Reiki transfer of energy and massage of some type to relax the body. And then they do that again at the very end to kind of soothe the body back into a normal state of mind in their life. But this time there were these little orbs of green light, and then when they'd go to do something, I'd see these little hands come out and they'd do whatever they needed to do. But they were performing the job that I usually see the little cherubim or the little small angels that are about the size of a 2 or 3 year old, maybe, or a 4-year-old, and kind of look like that, except these are actually adults.
Well, something should be said here about spiritually seeing these things. Spirit to us is invisible, so oftentimes in order to represent themselves in a way that you'll understand, you will see something not literally how they are, or the literally what they are, but as a representation of something that you'll understand. Now, Sharon, you have the little cherubim type, you call them, but then
Right.
What happens when what we call the surgeons come in?
The surgeons are different. They're usually not there very long. They're very, very tall. They're transparent. You can literally, you see the outlines and you see details with them, but they're definitely some kind of light being because you can see right through them. They're translucent, I guess, is the best word. They usually look kind of like old wise men because they have usually that masculine energy. They don't have to have, but usually they do. For me, when I see them anyway. And they're very, very tall and very, very thin. They come in and they actually can perform surgeries on a person. They don't always show up, but sometimes they do. The first time I had one of these show up, this woman had had trauma with 2 deaths, her father and her father-in-law within a couple of months, and she had had some kind of surgery on her jaw. After the surgery, she could barely talk. She could barely really even open her mouth. And then with the trauma of the 2 important people in her life, she had completely shut down, was not leaving her house, cut off all of her activities with church, with work, with family, with everything. So her aunt actually sent her to come and see me to see if we could help. And she had the longest list of things she wanted to work on that I have ever seen. But I did tell her we won't have time to do all of these things, but they will work on the worst things first. And so we did her session, and unknown to me, she had to leave at a specific time to go pick up her daughter from school. She had not shared that with me. So we did her session, and this was the first time I had ever seen someone like the surgeons that come in. And you could actually see them working translucently through her themselves, and they cut something in her jaw. And I asked her to share with me any different feelings that she would get. So I asked her if she felt anything happening. She said, yes, I feel like something just cut me. And he was in, he did it, and then he was gone.
So they generally come in
super fast.
They zip in and they do their thing and then they zip out, right?
And they zip out. And all the other angels that are smaller are in complete awe of this type of healer when they come in. These very, very super tall, white healers, translucent healers.
Now, I don't remember, did we have any of those come in yesterday?
Yes.
Oh, they did come in?
They did come in.
Oh, okay.
One came in.
One came in?
Because this was the interesting thing. The exact spot where the bullet had gone in this other lifetime was what was triggering all of this back pain that I was having. I could not move the slightest without, like, even doing like this that I'm doing right now. I could not even do that without excruciating pain until we did the session yesterday, and then it started getting better. But anyway, what they showed me yesterday, they literally came in and I could see like flesh, the bullet wound, and I could see them operating and literally digging this bullet out, then washing the wound really well, and then sewing it up. And then when they finished, and the little angels did the sewing up and the cleansing, but the surgeon came in to remove this bullet from a previous lifetime that was in my psychic body, I guess, or my quantum body. It was still there, so they removed that. And so that was interesting, because I don't really get to see the surgeons very often.
So
Master healers, yes, but the surgeons don't come in that often.
So what happened with, what was the effect that happened with the gal with the jaw thing?
Oh, okay. Sorry. So anyway, she went home, the lady where they did something on her jaw. But I want to get to the point that I didn't know what time she needed to leave. And the healers told me, okay, that's all we can do now. She has to go. And they were gone. And she was wide awake. She looked at her watch and says, oh my God, I gotta go. I gotta go pick up my daughter. But she had never told me that she needed to go at that particular time. So I had no idea. But the healers knew. They know everything, I guess. They don't always share everything, but they know. So they woke her up at the exact moment that she had to get up and leave to go get her daughter. So, yeah, that was definitely an interesting part of that story, too.
What effect did that have after the session?
Her aunt that had sent her to see me came back the following week she says, I just have to tell you face to face. She said she went home, I think that was on a Friday. That Sunday following, she was back in church. She was back in the choir, which she couldn't even speak properly after the surgery, much less sing. She couldn't do that at all, so she had dropped out of choir. So we did this on Friday, and then on Sunday, she's back singing in the choir on Sunday. She went back to work on Monday, and she never had another problem.
Yeah, it's when you're dealing with this,
with that. So
when you're dealing with this kind of thing, it all sounds so fantastical and what some would call woo-woo.
And it sounds
But
impossible.
it sounds impossible. But like Dolores Cannon said, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to. It just works. And both Sharon and I have seen this over the past several years with people who've had similar results. So your pain level was so bad you'd be in tears, and
I couldn't
move.
even move like that.
And so
the
now,
tiniest little bit. So walking was difficult. Everything was difficult.
So now, would you say your pain level has dropped about 80%?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And they said it wouldn't be gone overnight. That the worst of it would be gone, and the rest would take time. And a lot of times I've experienced with people that I've done this with that sometimes it doesn't show up for about 30 days, and then all of a sudden you realize it's gone. And it's a very subtle feeling. It's not something you sit there and immediately afterwards. Well, sometimes you do if you're analytical like myself. I did that one time.
Well, you've only had one time where it was pretty radical. Most of the time it was very gentle, but you had one time where it literally racked your neck and snapped it. You could hear the bone snapping.
That time.
But we don't have time to go into that. But let's just say that most of the time it's gentle, but once in a while there is a marketed.
Let's just say Spirit cracked my neck exactly like a chiropractor does. Exactly. And it shocked me to death.
That would freak you out, wouldn't it? But so anyway, we thought it was interesting enough to where I thought or we thought you would enjoy this little segment. But now what we'll do is we'll go into the channeling session, and we'll play that here on the video, and then we'll come back and we'll say a few words and we'll let you go, okay? So let's get to that channeling session.
Okay.
Okay, we're here with Sharon and Spirit. And Spirit started a little early, so we'll let Sharon go ahead and get back in with what Spirit was giving her just a moment ago. Go ahead, Sharon.
They're showing me a big ball of light and energy being beamed towards the earth and all of its inhabitants. Looking closer, I look to see what are the main colors, for these correlate to attributes. The primary color is blue, patches of lighter blue, mostly mid-blue, small amounts of darker blue. Blue brings balance and peaceful and harmonious negotiations. The next most dominant color is yellow, which is being beamed presently towards the earth and its inhabitants. This yellow with places of almost white and places of brilliant gold represents and beams analytical energy to the earth to balance out the emotions with the other part, with the blue. These are the two primary colors being beamed from Spirit to the earth at present. Yellow for wisdom and clear thinking and clear vision and understanding and communication. Lies being exposed. Truths coming out. The blue bringing peace and balance. Calming down of the emotions in order to create the balance between emotion and mind, body and mind. For body is slightly represented here too, in that the very center of the yellow is red.
Red symbolic of blood, but also symbolic of life force, energy, strength that comes from much life force and energy. They say they're having to boost the energy because they've been beaming blue for such a long time. People are becoming more passive and feeling more helpless and have lost much of that inner fire within that keeps them going. So the red is being sent down to reactivate all those who wish to be reactivated, re-energized, refocused, more wisdom as a balance to the force of uncontrolled emotion represented by the blue. Sometimes the blue, while seeking balance and harmony, instead stirs up revolution and other types of unexpected events that demand attention and focus to overcome.
Will we see a civil war in the United States?
This is why so much blue has been being beamed down to the inhabitants, but also the earth itself, to try to bring more balance and understanding in order to prevent this possibility from happening.
Are these colors a frequency of the color, or is this literal blue coming down, or yellow?
These are different shades of each.
Are
They have an energy frequency as well.
Well, when we look out our windows, we don't see yellow. So are these colors just a representation of what we would think of color?
They're a representation of energy currently being beamed towards the earth that we have access to by asking. These two colors, three colors with the small amount of red, are the three colors most needed by the earth in order to heal and balance things back to sanity again. So Spirit is beaming this to everyone. Not everyone is asking for the energy to bring peace and the understanding as to how best to do it and how to see through the lies.
So what Spirit is saying is that they're trying to bring balance, some sanity, reasoning, and trying to use the red to counteract some of the negative side effects. The apathy.
The passive acceptance of things.
Okay. But there is
and the helplessness they feel, which creates the apathy.
But what you're saying is this is to try to stave off or avoid a civil war type situation?
Reignite their self-worth, their understanding, their abilities to cope.
So this is to stave off what could possibly turn into a civil war in this country?
Yes.
Because there is that possibility?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else along this line?
This time is not something that should be feared so much. It creates much unexpected events that all must adjust and make changes because of. But it is the only pathway to complete peace, which will reign the next age. This is the spark that has been forgotten, that needs to be relit in order to carry all of you into this glorious new age. The spark in most of you has dimmed. This needs to be relit and activated, bringing you back to your strength, but also reason. They must go together hand in hand.
Well, for most people, when they see the events taking place, can't imagine a bright future. if things continue the way they are. So this is discouraging.
This is part of what has been referred to as the shift, but not happening in a way most of you would have expected. This is the way of life and of spirit, to continue to evolve in ways that you humans do not expect.
Okay, well, Jacob Cold, one of our CryptoVision subscribers, is asking about C60, and if C60 does have any benefit, if it's worth taking. What does Spirit say about C60?
C60 is not a quick fix. C60 is something that needs to be utilized on a regular, long-term basis, and you will get phenomenal results. But it must be daily for a consistently long period to gain the most advantage of its capabilities. It is not to be used for a quick fix. Its benefits increase with regular use and access to this ingredient which it needs. It is the building block of life. The current air, food, and lifestyle is tearing down many of the blocks of life. C60 has the capability of preventing this, but also of rebuilding and realigning once its use is implemented.
Okay. Well, Pip is asking if Vice President Pence will continue to be President Trump's running mate. Is there another running mate or vice president that he will choose? Has that been decided?
It is not decided yet. They are working on it. There are some who do not like Pence at all. There are others who insist on Pence. Pence himself has given thought to retiring from this office, as it has taken a toll on everyone, as it always does. Much weight is put upon the two people in the presidency and vice presidency that most of you would be shocked to learn. It makes their jobs more difficult, more stressful. He is not sure if he wants to continue this stress for another 4 years. Part of him is enjoying it, but part of him it's taking a toll on as well.
Well,
If he is replaced with someone else, we think it is most likely because he feels the emotional cost to himself and his family is too much for another 4 years.
well, I can certainly understand that.
He has not yet decided. They have considered other people for this office, looking at this in case he does decide to step down. It is a possibility, but he does not leave because he is not wanted necessarily. He leaves because the stress is taking a toll on him physically and emotionally, as well as his family.
Okay, well, Love Crypto is asking about November. There are several pastors and people having visions of UN troops, military operations within the United States, Washington, D.C. burning, and UN troops inside. What can you tell us about November? Can we expect a military invasion and a bunch of turmoil?
We see conflict at the border and a need for more enforcement, more soldiers at the border. Mandatory that this be done. Some kind of penetration or infiltration started at the border by an enemy. Additional forces quickly moved to the border, prevent the desired infiltration by the enemy.
Does Spirit see like Washington, D.C. on fire and UN troops and
We do not see UN troops allowed into this nation.
Spirit has indicated that there will be a lot of turmoil and social unrest and rioting around November. Do they still see that going on?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay. But no military invasion from China or Russia, that kind of thing?
No, as we have said before, the enemy is already here, not coming from what you would consider an invasion, coming from within. You must look within and tackle the enemy at its roots.
Will this enemy be successful in overthrowing the United States, dismantling the Constitution and the system of government that currently exists?
We see many people are ignorant as to what is really happening. This is why the yellow light is being beamed towards the earth so strongly, to wake up people's thinking, to see the truth and the lies that have been foisted upon them.
Okay. Well, Daniel, who lives down towards New Zealand, is asking about their Deputy Prime Minister. His name is Winston Peters. He's been an outspoken proponent of exposing China and some of the dealings that they've been doing in that part of the country.
He is strong, he is intelligent and focused and passionate, but we wish to say his life is in danger. He has great ability to influence others. So there are many who would prefer that he not be able to do so.
He recently got food poisoning, and the question is whether that was intentional.
This was intentional.
So he was poisoned.
He needs to have more security. His life is in danger. It has been avoided 3 to 4 times already, but those who wish him harm will not stop easily.
Is he going to be okay? Is he going to live through this food poisoning? I guess he's going in for an operation.
We see he will require recovery time, but his basic strength and willpower should allow him to recover.
Okay. The Three Gorges Dam. Now, Spirit gave you the indication after hearing that name of collapse. Will this Three Gorges Dam...
Still water pouring over it, crashing more of it.
Will it...
It looks like they have taken steps to create a new dam with more strength before that one collapses completely. This is their plan.
Well, I know they've let out the maximum amount of water they can, which has caused flooding below. But Spirit indicated that it was weakest at its base.
Yes.
So Spirit still sees that dam slipping and then collapsing or failing?
It fails at the bottom, and then the top collapses in upon it.
That's interesting because it's already shifted. The blocks it's built with are just kind of sitting on the bottom, and it seems that they're shifting, so that would make sense.
It comes through the bottom, then the upper ones collapse and comes over. Then there's a period it comes from both places.
Not good.
The letting out of the water needs to be controlled and let out a little at a time.
Well, the amount behind the dam is full, and that's why they're letting out all that water. They're worried it'll spill over the top.
But their plan is to build another in front, but they will have to hurry.
Okay. Well, there's other psychics.
It will be of a completely different design and maybe even material, and will be better constructed and will last much longer.
Interesting.
And will actually require less expensive materials.
Now, there's several psychics that are forecasting internet and cell phone outages on a nationwide level here in the United States coming up. Does Spirit see that possibly happening, where we have nationwide cell phone and or
We see
internet outages?
waves of outages, not in all places at the same time. More like a wave here, a wave there, a wave somewhere else. Not that even, and not from one cause, rather from equipment that has been allowed to deteriorate and has long past the point it should have been replaced. This is the cause of these power outages. Yes, you will see more outages in the future, but it is not from an outside event. It is more from inside infrastructure that should have been replaced many years ago is finally giving out and cannot be just patched, but will require serious investigation into new facilities altogether to
Now, are you talking about
send out the power.
Now you're talking about power lines and power. You're talking about electricity?
Yes.
Okay, this specifically is talking about cell phones and internet coverage being disrupted before the elections.
But the signals, as depicted in spirit, look like electricity. So,
Well, the thing that they're saying is that there'll be a cyber attacks or some sort of an attack against cell phones and internet coverage.
they're not showing me outage everywhere, pockets of outages here and there,
Okay.
but primarily caused from outdated infrastructure in various pockets of the U.S. and other places in the world too. There are many countries that have neglected their power infrastructure and their technology infrastructure to keep it safe and free of problems. It needs to be a well-oiled machine to hold up under extra stress.
Right now in Iran, there are several explosions and internal disruptions, one of which the Israeli government admitted to, and Iran is gearing up their missile defenses. And what can you see happening in the short term there in Iran? Are they ready to attack Israel? Is Iran under attack?
They're not as ready as they claim to be. They may say, we're going to come get you, but they're really not in the best position to do that at the moment. We think they will take some other more indirect action to get back at Israel.
Okay, so an all-out missile barrage attack on Israel is probably not going to happen, but something else.
No, they don't want that either. It would be suicide for them, too. They are more clever than that.
Okay, we see China backing off from their push into India. They've got flooding. They've got crop damage. They've got locusts coming in. They've got earthquakes. They've got flooding on a monumental scale, and unrest and divisions within the government. So we certainly see China looking inward.
We see also, we were remembering as you stated those things just now, but we also see more than that as well. Iran is not as strong as they would have you believe. Their way is a more indirect way, but at the same time more direct, where the message is unmistakable.
Well, I was referring to China and the problems China is having internally.
China is a very different scenario. China has many pockets and groups of people they have been seeking to control for many years now. It is not really working. We see each of these little pockets as a marble in China is the hand that's trying to hold on to these marbles, which are not in a bag. And one after the other keeps trying to get away or fight back. So they are being pulled in many, many different directions in different areas of their country, different issues. All of this is also creating political unrest, but the people have to be extremely cautious at any kind of political dissent. But those in power in China and are seeking to maintain this tight glove over them, because all of these various events are happening all over, like boy with the whole bag of marbles in his hand, and he's trying to keep all of them in his hand, and he can't because his hand isn't that big. This is what China has been trying to do, and all these little pieces are bumping up against each other and going their own separate ways, and it's creating all of this unrest and confusion and even fear in China and its peoples. It isn't going to be able to hold them together. Attempt at a war is an attempt to maintain control, but what we see is that it has gotten too far out of control that even starting a war would not help their problems. There has to be something done that is more extreme, and only the people can do this.
Some are saying that China is facing a banking crisis. They hold an extremely large amount of debt. A lot of the world is not boycotting China products, but not being cooperative with China. They say that they could face a banking crisis or a banking system collapse in China. Is that something that sounds reasonable?
What China will do is they will make more effort for their people to do as they're told, buy as they're told, sell as they're told, and they will have their own currency specific to their people, and they will begin to isolate more from other parts of the world. We see many of their resources that have been spread out over the world will be brought home to combat the crisis at home. This will weaken their presence overseas.
Well, they've got a big initiative called the Belt and Road Initiative, which is trying to reestablish the old Silk Road of commerce.
Right.
Some are wondering, are they building this to be able to move military and equipment and to try to dominate Europe, or is this more of a way of dominating finance and trade with Europe and pushing out?
Technically, the purpose and intent is for trade and financial connectivity, but on this world, nothing of power and significance escapes corruption by those who wish to weaponize and use those created with good intent for their negative purposes.
Okay, well, let's go over to some crypto. Let's talk about Veritasium. Verit told us years ago that Veritasium would have a day where people would be investing in it, and then all of a sudden, like money going down a deep well.
They're showing me like plumbing pipes with flushing down the drain.
Well, we've certainly seen people here with Veritasium having an issue because the commission has, I think it's the Securities and Exchange Commission, has fined them almost $9.5 million. Will people who hold Veritasium be able to get their money out or be able to cash out? How is that going to work?
It would be treated more like as if it were a bankruptcy.
Okay.
Some may get some back, but not their previous value.
Okay. Valdatort, another CryptoVision subscriber, is asking about ADA. It's risen 50% here recently. He's wondering what's going on with ADA.
Interesting. I see workers with climbing gear working together to scale upwards to this very high pinnacle peak, and nothing flashy, nothing shiny, but solid work and cooperation, working together to build a very strong structure. Not a quick venture, but definitely holds great promise.
Does ADA have more upside potential?
Much more.
Okay. Crypto Happy Face is asking about XYO token. XYO.
This is funny. This is like a carnival ride that doesn't even exist, but that feeling around it. And it goes out and then it comes back and it comes out and back, almost like a yo-yo. But it has very happy, good, colorful energy with it. It has a lot of excitement with it.
Is it a little overhyped to feel like a carnival setting? Is it?
Yeah, it definitely
like
feels like a
overhyped?
carnival ride setting, yes.
Is there any foundation to this? I mean, is it going to last, or did you just overhyped?
It doesn't feel bad in that, like it's doomed or anything like that. It actually feels very happy and very cooperative and like a lot of fun, exciting. But it doesn't necessarily have a lot of structure or foundation. It's like it throws itself off balance all the time, which that in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, because you can challenge yourself to do more than you could ever do before. So this is something that we do all the time, is common in this earth. This can happen with all energies. So we feel much of this energy being applied now.
So is XYO something that a person should feel comfortable in buying, or is it just a flash in the pan, or what?
Okay, let's see. Is it a flash in the pan? They're saying no to that. They just keep showing me like a wild ride. So that can have many different meanings. But the emotion that I get is happy, excitement and happiness. So
Well, there must be something around it that is...
It's very exciting, and it's very colorful, very high energy, a great deal of excitement, but also a great deal of having to be flexible and being able to do that, like easily, like second nature. It can, whatever challenge is presented with, it can bounce back almost instantly. So it would be hard to challenge this one and win.
Okay, well, the following
because
cryptos...
they have so much strength.
Okay, the following cryptos have been making some gains here recently, and I thought I'd just mention some of these. I'm not sure if we've asked about these in the past, but the first one is AAVE, or AVI.
AAVE.
Mm-hmm.
AVI, not bad, but it has a lot of work to do before it can be a major contender.
Yeah, it's been making some pretty nice gains here while some of the other cryptos have been going sideways.
Short term.
I see. The next one is Cosmos.
Cosmos, it looks like I'd have to say it's good. First, it presented as like I'm looking at a planet in space through a telescope. And then all of a sudden the scene reverts to where that same scene is right outside of a picture glass window I'm standing in front of, like it's right there.
What does that mean to you?
This one is going to go places. It's very versatile. It has many additional safeguards in it. Keep it working smoothly. Will give it endurance and strength. Then it looks like after a lot of work and coming together with a lot of different energies and cooperation, all of a sudden they expand out, like on one hand like an explosion, but on the other hand like a controlled demolition. But then on a third hand like a birth of all these new possibilities and tremendous growth and variety. This will grow and adapt in a lot of different directions with a lot of different features and special purposes.
Well, it almost sounds like they kind of dismantle and retool, and a demolition sounds like an explosion of destruction and then a reorganization.
If something is working, they are not afraid to demolish what wasn't working and start from scratch without being influenced by the perspective of the old. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, well, if somebody invested in Cosmos, does it have more upside potential at this time?
We would say it has great upside potential because there are unlimited growth possibilities for it as it is now, and it hasn't even truly bloomed yet.
Okay. The next one is Algorand, Algorand, Algorand.
Algorand is facing a lot of issues at the moment. It will have to make some changes and incorporate those changes. If and when it does so, it will survive and has much growth potential. But this is not certain yet. We do not see long duration with this entity unless changes are made. Short term, it's okay, but we would be careful of long term.
Okay, the next one is Elrond, Elrond, Elrond.
If it's a crypto, I visualize like a gold coin represents that specific crypto, and I use that as my point of focus to see what Spirit wants to show.
What does it show you with Elrond?
Slick, polished, good marketing as it moves smoothly towards its destination. High speed, a lot of energy and velocity. Has the potential to soar.
Does it have more
Fairly structural. The good at present only needs direction now.
Does it have more upside potential?
Yes, but do not expect too much too soon.
Okay, the next one is FTX token. FTX token.
I can't see it. I just see a dark spot. Ask again just to be sure.
Okay, we're looking at FTX token.
No, it doesn't look like good energy. Not comfortable.
Okay, so that's for FTX token.
Want to run away. Looks are deceiving.
Okay, so that doesn't look too bright for FTX, although they've been making some gains here recently. And the last one is Ampleforth.
Ampleforth?
Yeah, Ampleforth.
Like the number 4?
Well, fourth.
Spelled that way?
Ampleforth.
Oh.
Ampleforth.
Oh, this shows a coin that the lights are still a little dim at the moment, but it shows in time great strength, energy, and light coming from this coin. Very powerful in the future. Needs patience.
So it still has more upside potential then?
Much more.
Okay.
It hasn't even begun yet. What it has achieved at this point is very small compared to its promise.
Well, it does have the word ample name.
Appropriate.
Well, we'll end this here. Is there anything Spirit would like to say in closing?
Think of something to ask.
We pretty much asked.
Anything.
I guess people are looking for a little bit of hope that things will calm down and get back to somewhat normal, where we can go back to work. It looks like this second wave is starting to kick in, where states are starting to talk about shutting down. Are we going to go into a full shutdown, even though Trump has said he is not going to shut the country down? What can we expect with this second wave?
We
so-called?
see much resistance to a total shutdown. Some industries are negatively affected by any shutdown. Others can survive with some ingenuity. Many will seek different types of employment to allow them to get through another shutdown. We do not see severe shutdowns for long periods of time. We see shutdown, then opening up a little and waiting, then maybe shut down again. This goes on most likely through early 2021.
So it sounds like some states or some areas will shut down under the rulership of local governments, and then others will be less apt to shut businesses down again. Will continue to run. It'll be spotty. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
This is your question.
Oh, I was going to ask about food. Will there be disruptions in food transportation and food getting to the stores coming up? Will food be...
There are some planned disruptions in this very area of concern.
Who's planning this?
Those who plan all of the dissension,
So...
all of the violence. They are like a mafia.
So,
Make no mistake, they are not do-gooders.
so they're planning on shortages and disruption with transportation and stocking of stores.
Yes.
And food prices, are they going to go up?
Food prices already are going up and will continue. This is why we have said grow some of your food yourself to supplement other basics not so easy to provide for yourself, your staples and hard goods.
Is it recommended that they store up right now while they still can for a while?
Yes.
Okay.
No question here. And the ability to grow your own greens, fruits, and vegetables, canned and frozen and dried is okay. But the best is fresh, and nothing is as fresh as that which you grow in your own space.
Okay, well, we'll end this here, and we want to thank the guides for talking with us.
Don't turn it off yet, because they always do something.
Okay, I'll leave it going.
All I have to do is just blank out my head, and then they bring stuff in.
Okay, well, we'll let it run then.
They were showing me earlier like these two pieces of metal that are straight and individual, and then there was a cut in the center of each one. So the next step is put those cuts together and it forms a big X or big cross. These are analogies for relationships. So when you come into a relationship and the notches are perfectly centered between the two of you where they lock together and form a perfect X, then the next step is to round out the square corners on this X. Then you become a circle. So what happens when you become a circle versus a large X standing upright? The circle gives you the power to move, the power to create great things, more strength, more endurance, more guidance, more direction, more power. All of that comes when you reach the circle stage. So these are the steps for a relationship, from individuals and separate to joining together, forming the X. The X forms 4 squares. The 4 squares are obstacles, challenges, differences that you have to overcome in order to build the relationship. So when these squares become rounded out and you find yourself in the shape of a circle, the two of you together, then you can start testing your power, your influence, your light, and increasing its strength and validity. Only when you have the circle can you have this power and energy to create your dreams.
Well, certainly in the troubled times and challenging times that we're living in, whatever relationship we find ourselves in, whether it's a personal one with a significant other or a friend or friends, we need to build those relationships now and make them so
you
they'll
need to
roll.
round out the corners of the challenges these relationships represent. As this is done, each of you gains your true power to become creators.
And
It goes back to the two colors, the blue and the yellow, which are at cross purposes to each other and challenge each other, but have to be used cooperatively and equally. It's the same scenario.
so taking opposites and making them work together in harmony is what you're saying.
And overcome the obstacles by rounding out the rough corners,
I see.
the sharp corners.
Mm.
They must be embraced. Each side must embrace and accept the differences on the other and not see it as a threat, but rather the fiber you weave your foundations with.
Okay, well, we'll end this here. Again, we want to thank Spirit for communicating with us, and thank you, Sharon. Thank you to all the listeners here on CryptoVision. We appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, love, light, and clarity. Be well, everyone.
So, good night, everyone.
We hope you enjoyed that channeling session. It wasn't too terribly long, but keep your questions coming because we want to put priority on your questions before we give any of ours. And we had a few new cryptos I thought were interesting that are making some gains here. So, in fact, we've seen the crypto market take a rise, and now it's kind of steadying out. But some of these cryptos are still rising pretty good. So that's good to see because I can't remember the time.
They should continue for the most part.
Well,
steady rise up.
I think you said July they were supposed to level out and start going
Leveling
down.
out.
And leveling out and then going down, you said.
Yeah.
Going into the fall. So
Towards August.
don't be shocked if you start to see some of these level out again.
But we don't see like enormous crashes like we've seen in the past. So I do want to add that.
We haven't seen an enormous crash. I mean, there used to be pretty radical crashes.
When we first got in, it went down a lot.
Yeah.
Over the next few months.
And I hope you don't hold Veritasium. Of course, in the session we talked a little bit about Veritasium, but not quite sure how that's all going to play out. But Sharon, you saw that several years ago about Veritasium.
I saw that in the beginning.
Yeah, right. Yeah. When we first started this, we saw Veritasium like a rail car being pushed off a cliff. It's going to go up, 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 and then down like a well, and where you can't get your money out.
Well, there were two. The one was the cart going up to the top, and then instead of going over and coming down easily,
right,
and naturally it went backwards and crashed and fell off the hill and went every which way. And then the second one was the well. All these people gathered around this very deep well, and all their assets are in there and they can't get them out, and it's so deep that they're like, they don't know how they'll ever be able to get it out.
I know Sharon was criticized for a long time about that Veritasium, and because it was very popular, but
well, it made a lot of people a lot of money for a while.
Well, yeah, it did.
So,
but it was one that wasn't destined to last, unfortunately. But that's one of the things about some of Sharon's predictions you have to understand is we don't really know, because of the time, we don't really know if it's this year or if it's next year or if it's 2 years from now.
That's true of everybody working with Spirit to get predictions.
So sometimes something will, like this...
time is very difficult.
Like this Mexico City earthquake we're expecting, and the tsunami that goes the opposite direction of what a normal tsunami would be somewhere in Southeast
I
Asia.
think it's the Philippines, but it's in that area of Indonesia.
And we're still waiting. And oftentimes some of these we'll forget about it and it'll go out of our mind, then the event will happen, and then we'll forget that the thing was ever made. That's kind of frustrating at times. But anyway, we'll let you go, and we're still working on the soulmate attraction system, which I think you're going to really enjoy if you're a single person, because Sharon will go into some of the history about how this has worked for others and how quickly it's worked for others. It's just like the spiritual healing and the past life regression. It's something that you wouldn't figure would work, but it does regardless. So what do?
It even
except share it
for
with
me,
you guys, right?
so.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks for your patience with us here as Sharon heals up. And I guess that's another wrap.
That's another wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
No.